question during our registration process about how much sleep should my child be getting every night. I thought that was an interesting one to touch on as school and extracurricular activities start to pick up.
I could start on this one. Dr. Shaw, please jump in. um, so this one is going to vary by how old the child is. And so, sleep requirements are going to differ based on a child's age and a variety of other factors as well. So, like typically, like even for our teenagers, we still want them to get ideally, around 8 hours of sleep, 8 to 10 hours to sleep. And then, for some of our younger kids, that may go even, much higher. As for the infants, somewhere, between 12 to even 16 hours, kids may be sleeping most of the days. And so, and then there's everything in between those extremes based on the child's age. And so, I think one important thing to do also is to look out for any signs that children may not be getting enough sleep or high quality sleep. And so, the things to look out for, just like adults, when we don't sleep enough, we can often be a little bit grumpy or maybe a little bit short. And so, those are certainly things that we might see in kids as well, where they may be a little bit more irritable or a little bit quicker to sort of trigger in terms of like more tantrums. But then, the other thing to keep in mind too is, it can also look very different in an adult. So where for adults, we may be sort of slower than usual or not quite as energetic. For kids, we actually may see the opposite. They may be actually extra energetic or even more busy than typical. And so, those would be kind of the things I would be looking out for to help guide in terms of, is sleep enough?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think the other thing to think about maybe is what we call sleep hygiene. So parents often have questions about, I know they need this sleep, but how do I get them to do it? Because kids don't like to go to bed. And I think you're right, they get more and more active, the more and more tired they get, especially the younger kids. And so trying to set up a bedtime routine with the kids where bedtime starts a half an hour before they actually get into bed with a warm bath, maybe a book to read, put them in their pajamas so that they get their body starts to know that as they go through that ritual, then they're going to get into bed and go to sleep. And then the other thing that comes up really often nowadays is screen time. So kids really shouldn't be looking at any kind of screen, whether it's a phone or a tablet or a computer or a video game or a TV, for a good hour or two before they want to go to sleep. And this is actually something that becomes even more important as the kids get older, because as you get to those teenage years, they become very sensitive to the light coming off those screens, and it does wake them up. It's also tied to their performance. So we know that there's three things I always tell the parents, and this came out from a very good large study, three things that will help them succeed, and both academically, as well as emotionally and personally. And that's they should sleep a good 9 hours or more every night. Kids should get 1 full hour of physical activity a day, preferably outdoors. And they should cut their screen time to 2 hours or less per 24 hours. And we know that kids who do those three things have better grades, they're calmer and better adjusted, and they're happier children than kids who aren't allowed or don't get the chance to do those three things. So it does have an impact.
Thanks both for sharing. I think we don't talk about sleep hygiene enough, and so there were some really helpful tips there. In the chat, we are going back to COVID vaccines, and Charles shared that her family received their last vaccination in January. And so she was wondering if they would obtain it around the same time, or is it safe to do so out of that time frame?
No, in fact, they're probably overdue, but certainly they can get their vaccine now. Usually about 6 months to the booster from the last dose, and then the new bivalent booster, which is available for children after age 12, and then all adults that can be given at 2 months after the most recent booster or shot that they've had. So I think now is certainly the time to go get it before the holidays come up and the cold weather sets in and they're more likely to be exposed going forward.
Wonderful. Please unmute yourself if you have any other questions, or feel free to drop them in the chat.
Awesome. Hi, I'll come off mute and come on video. Thank you so much for your questions and answers and your time to both of you. I have a slightly different question. I supervise a team of community health workers. And so I've been trying to figure out how to phrase this, but basically like just they work with families that have children of like a wide range, you know, infants or even, you know, preborn, and then up to like, you know, some of the kids are, you know, school age, they could, you know, some are teenagers. And I was just wondering if you had any like general recommendations for like things that they should really be hitting with the parents, or even just like ways to talk about like childhood and back to school readiness with parents. I know that's like super broad. I was trying to like, you know, bring it down, but I wasn't having success with that. So just anything in there that you think, you know, might be a helpful tip.
Yeah, this is a great question. I could start, and Dr. Shaw, if you want to jump in too. So, you know, one of the things I always recommend is, you know, to start with kind of the routines that are already happening. And so, you know, there's already a lot of things that we do just in our daily activities that can really support learning and support social emotional growth. And so, you know, these are simple routines, whether it's, you know, like exercising, you know, like taking a walk together, eating together, and then, you know, like all the way to like, you know, like reading together or talking. You know, these are all powerful opportunities to really support children's growth in language, literacy skills, numeracy skills, and even social emotional skills in terms of being able to open, to have open communication and share sort of feelings. And so, you know, there's no wasted opportunity, whether it's a walk together, looking at signs and, you know, like pointing them out, whether it's exercising or dancing and counting the beats, or whether it's, you know, like looking at nutrition labels together, and, you know, beginning to like, you know, prepare a meal together. You know, these are all great opportunities. In addition to like kind of the more formal activities like shared reading or like helping with homework, or, you know, like keeping in close contact with teachers, that, you know, we can leverage to kind of help support kids.
And I guess what I could add to that is if parents' concerns center around more being anxious about either sending their kids to school, whether it's for safety or for developmental reasons, or if the kids are anxious about going to school, kind of easing into some of that in some ways can be helpful for some children. Whether that's easing into it by finding other less threatening activities where they can be with other kids and share some time together outside of school in either sports or clubs or things like that. Or it's giving them experiences with extended family or friends to get them ready to be with groups that are not the family. And this, especially coming out of COVID, where a lot of kids were home and just with their immediate family for so long, some of them might need some practice socializing. And so those kinds of things can help. And then also respecting the children's or the child's fears and acknowledging them, but, you know, giving them the confidence to know that they can overcome and work through those.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I really like the idea of asking about routines because it's so you can learn so much and it's so non-judgmental. It's just finding out what's already going on. And then you can use those, as opportunities to maybe do some education about, things that, could maybe be tweaked or improved or a little or something. So thank you both.
Great question. If there are any other questions, please feel free to ask away. It's been so great having you both here today and learning. I myself learning, and I know some of our teammates are learning as well. All about child health and the wonderful work that pediatricians and specialty doctors do. If there is no more questions, I might give you all back a bit of time for your lovely Tuesday night. If everyone could extend a warm welcome for our wonderful doctors, Dr. Jimenez and Dr. Schwab. They were fantastic, and for all of you for submitting your amazing questions and taking some time out of your Tuesday night to join us.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to be here.
Yes, thank you. Enjoyed it. Thanks.